Hi everyone, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. Today, Tag Tuesday, I have a tag for you, and that is Meet the BookTuber tag. I was tagged by the wonderful, beautiful, delightful Skye at Read for the Skye, and the tag was originally created by Kristy at Grace Filled Reads. I'll link them below. If you want to hear my answers, stay tuned. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are at Book Talks with Miss Thomas. And if you are new here, please subscribe. And if you are returning, yay, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, I'm excited to do this tag. And I have to tell you, there are 10 questions and they are really deep, thought-provoking questions. So I've been carrying them around, looking them over every few days, trying to think of what would be the most honest answer from me and something that matters. Because don't you just hate when you're asked a really deep question and then after you answer, you're like, oh, I should have said that. So I've given this video some thought and I'm going to tell you my answers to Meet the BookTuber tag. Question number 1, how do you decide what book or genre you like? And that one's an easy one for me. I like a mystery. I like a book that keeps me guessing. I also like a book where I relate to the characters. I have to like the characters to invest in the book. If the book, if I don't care about the characters, then I tend to abandon the book. And I am fast to DNF books. I DNF, I think, faster than a lot of my friends. I have to really just be invested in the characters and the story, and at least one, if not both. So if it's a mystery and it's got me really wondering what's going to happen, who did what, then you've got me hooked. If it's something with a character that I really love, I'm probably hooked, even if I'm not as keen on the plot. So mystery is definitely my favorite genre. Character development matters to me. Question number 2, what author is most like me? And that's a hard one. I had to think about that one. I would go with Nancy Thayer because she writes about the beach and I love the beach. And a lot of Nancy Thayer's characters are also middle-aged like me. I think I'm middle-aged, and I'm okay with that. I really am. My sister-in-law said to me, oh, wait till you turn 50. Life gets so bad after 50. And I said to her just this summer, I said, you know, I'm in my 50s and I'm loving life. I'm not unhappy. And she said, wait till you turn 60 then. But I like being middle-aged and I appreciate Nancy Thayer because her books have some vibrant, lovable, middle-aged women like myself. And I also like the stories about the beach. So definitely, I don't know Nancy Thayer personally. I do follow her on Instagram, but I would go with her because she likes to write about the beach and because she's, you know, in a stage of life or writes about a stage of life that I most relate to. Question number 3. What book would you take if you were stranded on an island? So I would obviously say the Bible, and I think that's what Skye said. Well, obviously the Bible, but assuming the Bible is not an option because maybe it's already there, I would go with an anthology of some sort. And the one that came to mind, let me show this to you. This is a chunkster. This I saved from college. I loved this course in college and I kept the book all these years. And let me tell you, I just said I'm in my 50s. I graduated from college in my early 20s. So it's an old book I've been carrying around. I had to wipe some dust off of it. But it is a collection of plays. Look at that. And I would like to get it recovered. I don't know if that's a thing. If you know about that, put it in the comments. I'd love to have professionally recovered because this is a sweet book. And it is The Masters of Modern Drama, and it had a lot of plays in it that I just really enjoyed. I just really liked this book, and I liked plays as a child. My parents took me to a lot of plays, and I performed in some plays and even directed some plays back in my younger years. So I would go with a collection of plays. That one especially, I'd have to get it recovered first, of course. I guess if I were a magical genie and I could take anything I wanted to an island, I would like zap it with a wand and make it good as new and always in perfect condition. But that would be the book. Any anthology really, because I'm greedy. A lot of short stories, plays, poetry, but I would probably go with that one because I loved that particular book in college. Question number 4 is an easy one. Do you like books to read them or because they look pretty on your shelf? And for me, definitely to read them. I personally think that books are something that should be shared. That's the old English teacher in me, the reading specialist. You know, the best way to read a book is with a group of people, whether it's in a book club or you just pass it on to a friend, or whether it's with a class of students, or, you know, with a session with a reader, a struggling reader. I love to share books. And so I definitely pass them on. I tend not to keep them. So except for maybe Bible studies, I do have an underbed box with a bunch of Bible studies because I've written very personal things in them, and it would be good to look through them and reflect on my growth, my spiritual growth in different Bible studies. But those even are under the bed. They're not on display because they're very private. So I would say I like books to read them and to share them. Share good books. Share them, please. That's the whole purpose of BookTube. Okay, question number 5. What is a book you wish you read years ago that would have changed your life? And, you know, it's funny because I have a middle school son, and I was spending some time with him one day recently. We were shopping on a Saturday. Let me just say, we were outlet shopping. And of course, at the very, very end of the shopping trip, he mentioned that he needed a new coat. Isn't that just like a kid? You have all day to shop, and then like right when it's time to leave, they tell you the thing they need. But anyway, we got him a coat. But when I was talking with him, we were in the car and we were driving, and I said, if you could do any one thing, if you could share any one thing with the whole world, if there was any one thing you could do to benefit the world, what would it be? And he said, I would probably cure cancer. And I thought, okay, I had to answer the question myself. And I thought, if it were me, if I could do any one thing to make the world a better place, it would be to tell everybody and help everybody to truly believe how much they matter. That's really, to me, the bottom line is just if you knew how much you mattered, you know. I've told my own biological children all the time that, you know, they are made in the image of God. And if you really understood that you are made in the image of God, and that's the whole thing that made Satan so mad. And because of that, there's so much sin against our image, which is made in the image of God. So if I think personally, if I could really convince the whole world that they're made in the image of God, they're a child of God, and they matter, I mean, if you really, really embraced that idea, I like to think there wouldn't be sexual violence, there wouldn't be addiction, there wouldn't be eating disorders, there wouldn't be violence against one another, there wouldn't be body shaming, because if we really knew how beautiful we truly were, you know, as someone made in the image of God, I think the world would be a completely different place. So I would say that that's the one thing I'd like to communicate to the world, but that's a little bit of a digression. I don't even remember the question. But the question is, what is a book you wish you read years ago? And I guess I would say The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, because the main character in that book feels like he doesn't matter. He feels like, well, I'm just a carny and, you know, I don't have this, this, and this, instead of thinking of all the wonderful, powerful things he does have. And I mean, he was the love of someone's life. He was someone who protected our country. He had all these wonderful things, but he didn't see his value. And then after he dies and he meets all the people in heaven, he sees the tremendous impact all of the different things he did in his life had on others, and how incredibly beautiful and powerful his life really was. And so that is the book I wish I read and fully wrapped my head around when I was younger, because I'm far from perfect, and I've definitely not understood my value and behaved as someone who doesn't know her own value, and my deepest regrets come from that. So I'm sorry. I did tell you that this would be a very deep, a deep tag. You know, these tag questions I think require some real thought and some real discussion. So if you're looking for fluff, maybe go to another video, because this one's a little deeper. Okay, so question number 6. If there were only 3 books in the world, what would they be? I have no idea. I've really given this one a lot of thought, and I cannot come up with an answer. Obviously the Bible, because we need to know, the truths in the Bible. And then maybe something historical. A historical textbook might be too heavy. It would have to be a book, I think, that would engage the reader's attention. And I mean, historical textbooks are great, but not everybody is a textbook person. So I would maybe say something like Night by Elie Wiesel, so that we would read that and we would know that, the brutality and the horrific things that have happened in our history, that we should be aware of how awful we are capable of being, and how following along with things that are wrong can be so very destructive. So I would say perhaps Night, because even though the Holocaust is just a sliver of our history, I think we need to understand the importance of history and the terrifying thought that history can repeat itself. So, and the Bible actually is the history of, God's love for his chosen people. So those are both history. And then I would go with something maybe fun and fluffy like poetry, so that like chicka chicka boom boom, so that we could have a little fun and a little sense of the beauty of words and the rhythm of words. So that might be fun. I had a vision problem recently. I'm fine, but I had a little scare. I thought I might have glaucoma. And I was sitting in the waiting room with my husband, and I asked him, would you rather be blind or deaf? And he said, probably deaf, because I'd want to be able to see if I was, if danger was approaching or anything. And I said, yeah, but then you'd never be able to listen to music. And I can't imagine a world without music. And even something as simple as the musical rhythm of a poem, I can't imagine life without it. What a huge blessing, like what kind of God we love and we serve, that thinks of everything right down to the shades of color in the sky and the flowers and the rhythm of certain poems and the syntax of certain sentences, and that he gives us, an appreciation for that. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I guess I'm pretty good lately at asking questions I can't answer. Would I rather be deaf or blind? If I could do one thing for the world, what would it be? I've just been a little deep lately, so I did warn you. Question number 7. What character is most like you? And I have to tell you, I laughed out loud when I thought about this one. I really struggled with how to answer it, because every single character that I came across was male. So what does that mean? Because I think of myself as a pretty girly girl. Like, I don't think I'm very masculine. I'm okay with masculine girls. I truly am. I think everybody brings something beautiful to the table, but I most identify with men in books. And if I had to pick one that I most identify with, it probably wouldn't surprise most of you. It would be Myron Voltaire in the Harlan Coben series, the Myron Voltaire series in the Harlan Coben books, because I love books about friendship. Now, in this case, it's Myron's friendship with Wynne, but Myron is such a sidekick, he loves his friend, and his friend's always there for him, but he's also kind of sappy, like instead of drinking alcohol, he drinks his little yoo-hoo drinks, and he has like this romantic idea about the love of his life, and he's just so loyal and kind, and he always wants to do the right thing. but sometimes he gets bogged down with all the different things in the world. A friend of mine one time referred to them as like a spider web, you know? Do you ever think about your life as a spider web? I think about it would be so nice to just go straight here to the right thing, but there's all these little tiny fibrous like strings that get in the way, and then you have to really sift through all the different things going on before you can get to an end result. And sometimes those things, you know, can be murky with regard to what's right and what's wrong. And I'm not advocating doing things that are morally wrong, because I've definitely said, you know, the Bible. And sometimes when I'm really struggling with what's right and what's wrong, well, what does the Bible say? You know, God said it, I believe it, end of discussion. But Byron Voltaire, I appreciate the way he really grapples with morality, especially in contrast to Wynne, who, by the way, I don't know if any of my students are watching, but that would be called a foil. Byron and Wynne are foils, because when you put a jewelry stone against a foil, it's supposed to make the color pop. And so when we have literary characters, you know, and they contrast each other, their contrasts are supposed to make their differences pop for the reader. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the friendship between Myron Voltaire and Wynne, and I most relate to Myron. Question number 8. If you could write a book about anything, what would it be? And that was my favorite question when Skye did this video, because she talked about she's actually in the process of writing a book. I began a book years ago and abandoned that because I just don't have maybe the self-discipline. And at the time, you know, I had a young child, and then another young child came along. So we do have to prioritize in life. And I don't know that writing a book was just what I was called to do, and being an author is probably not what I'm called to be. But I did feel very passionately about this subject, and I wanted to try and communicate about it in a way that would reach people and really prompt them to think, because that's what I think a good book should do. And this is an awkward subject, but I would write a book about the impacts of falling prey to bad choices, to put it one way. When my son was about 3, I had a miscarriage. And when my oldest son was a toddler, I had a series of miscarriages that were very impactful, and certainly horribly painful and upsetting, but also it really prompted me and my husband in our marriage to get more proactive about what it means to be a husband and wife, and what it means to be a parent, and, you know, how can we serve God and serve each other. And having those miscarriages really, it was just a game changer for me in both a good and a bad way. It was a traumatizing event, or series of events, but then, like Romans 8:28, God uses all things for the good of those who love him. How I wish that verse said, God uses all things for the good of the person suffering. God uses all things for my good. That's not what the verse says. And if I could write a book, it would be about something that would help other people really understand that God is good, and in the darkest places in our life, God is there. He is alive and well, and he is moving mountains. One thing that was said to me once, if I could share this, when I was going through that time, I think it was in a sermon when somebody said, you know, God's up there weaving this beautiful tapestry, but if you've ever seen a tapestry, it's beautiful on one side, but on the other side, it's just knots. And that's what we see. We see the knots, but God's looking at the tapestry. And so if I could write a book about something, it might be about, I had originally thought I would write a book about a young woman struggling with marriage and fertility, and specifically having a miscarriage. And in this case, one of them was chronologically a second trimester miscarriage. So, you know, pretty significant pregnancy that, you know, I knew that it wasn't going to work out before the baby passed. I think that would make an interesting character in a book. And then I would juxtapose, if I might say, look at me busting out the literary words. I would juxtapose that with another character that I encountered when I was struggling with miscarriage. And this was years ago. I haven't talked to this woman in years. But there was a woman whose husband was struggling with a pornography addiction. And so I would pray about my pregnancy, and she would pray about the way this pornography addiction was negatively impacting her and her marriage and her parenting. And I think it was a very horrible place that I was in my past. But I think it would make one heck of a story. I think it would make a good novel to actually watch the lives of these two women unfold and watch them, you know, through the power of Jesus, really grow and overcome those particular circumstances. And I think that would make a good book. I just don't have it in me right now. But I did attempt it once, and I thought about it. And the thing that really held me back was I'm married to such a godly man. Like I can't imagine what it must be like to be in that situation of you know, having such a challenge in your marriage. And I had a hard time getting my mind to go there. So that's why I ended up abandoning the project. So I bet that's more than you knew about me. I wonder if I'll lose subscribers. I'll have to see. You know, if you're not a booktuber, or maybe if you are, you can laugh about that. My dear friend, one time I did a rant, and she said, "You're going to lose subscribers over that one." And I thought, okay, well, you know, thank you, Skye, for asking me these really thought-provoking questions. I think it's important to say who you are and say what you think. And I hope that people can appreciate that. And, you know, if you don't, I still respect you and respect your right to not appreciate my video. Okay, so anyway, let me talk about this. Number 9, how do you plan your YouTube content? Phew, a much easier question. It's pretty simple. I started this video for my students during the pandemic. I said, you know, don't let COVID bully you. And if you're stuck in your house, find some way to still be creative and engage with the world. And I practiced what I preached, and I did this YouTube channel. And originally I did it, you know, as sort of not exactly a dare, but I challenge you, students, and I'm going to do it too. And this is how I've come up with a way to do it. That's how my YouTube channel began. And so initially I thought I will post 1 video a week because I commit to reading 1 book a week. And so originally my content was, hi, this is Miss Thomas, and this is the book I read this week. And it really took me over a year, sadly, to realize that that's not a very interesting channel. So I'm finding that I like more doing videos like monthly wrap-ups where I can talk about 10 or more books, top 10 books I've read, 10 books for Christians. I'm trying to move away from that 1 book review per week, but that's where I started. Then I thought, okay, well, I'll do 2 books a week, and I tend to do a Tag Tuesday and then some sort of video about, I said books, didn't I? 2 videos per week. And I'll do a Tag Tuesday and then some sort of video about books, or a book at least. And now I'm thinking, okay, the more I'm getting into YouTube content, the more I'm thinking, I care more about the quality of content, whereas originally I went into this with a commitment to read and discuss 1 book a week. Now I'm more interested in the content of my videos. I want videos about lots of books in the hopes that 1 or 2 might appeal to a reader out there. And I'm truly so blessed and delighted by especially the YouTube BookTube community, and especially some of my Christian sisters like Skye, who has tagged me, and getting to know them, especially on the reading sprints. So now I'm doing tags because I want to engage with my BookTube friends, and then I'm trying to do videos about multiple books. So how do I plan content? I went from 1 video per week to 2 videos per week to now I shoot for 1 video a week, but I'm not so hard on myself. I definitely want to do at least 1 video a month where I talk about lots of books. So I went from having a plan to not so much. It's funny, most people, the better you get at something, the more structured and the more planned you would be. I'm not finding that to be true for me as a booktuber. So anyway, and I'd like to thank Chrissie at Kristie's Purple Library for that, because I was locked into this, okay, once a week I'm going to do da 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 da. I tend to be kind of rigid about structure, and Chrissie got out there and said, well, as long as I post something once a month, and her videos are fantastic. So I thought, you know what? She has so much better content, maybe I should start thinking like Chrissie. So she really did inspire that line of thought for me. So thank you for that, Chrissie. Okay, if you were dying, what would you read to the world? That's another one. I mean, maybe Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, because it's just so fun, and I want to be remembered as someone who was fun and made you smile and made you love books. I could also go with a more like stoic answer and say, a psalm. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness, I will not fear evil. My Lord is with me. My rod and my staff may comfort me. I don't know. Something fun and silly, or something from the Bible that lets everybody know I'm only gone from here. You'll see me later. You'll see me later. And I really do love to think about all of my wonderful BookTube friends that I've never met face to face. I like to think about us in heaven. Maybe we'll have a special book club and we'll talk about books in heaven. Maybe we'll have a choir and maybe the lyrics to the music will be from books, especially God's book, right? Like the Psalms. I don't know. So if I were dying, what would I share with the world? A book that lets them know how much they're loved, and that's the Bible. And for me personally, just a book that would make them smile. So take your pick. I've recommended so many out here on my channel. So that's it. Thanks again, Skye, for this tag. It really got me thinking. It's something that I wanted to really sift through the questions and give a lot of thought to before I posted this video. So she did tag me a few weeks ago, but I wanted to give it some thought. And plus, I've been really busy, with my job and with grad school. I am going to do a video on grad school because I'm doing a graduate program about reading and the reading brain, and some people have expressed an interest in that. So that'll probably get posted in about a month. Right now I haven't been able to think about that, but I will. I'll get to that within the month. And I hope you're out there and you're reading and you're having a great time and enjoying your books. And I hope you're enjoying not just my videos, but the many wonderful videos out there posted in this wonderful BookTube community. And above all else, I hope you know you are made in the image of a miraculous God who created you for a specific purpose. And that is just so huge. And therefore, you matter.